Honestly, I expected the number to be more than a third, but I can't say I'm surprised. Over a third of voters know someone who supports Trump but won't say so in public. Over a third of voters know someone. So what does that mean? That means you've got about just over 33% of voters. So does that mean that within that group, maybe multiple people know the same person, so it's less? Maybe they know more than one person, so it's more. But I'll tell you what, it's true. Trump's got secret voters because people are scared to speak up. It is kind of changing. And maybe we'll come back to this and go over the numbers. I'll just give you the quick, gist of things. They say over a third of all registered voters in America know a friend or family member who privately supports President Donald Trump, but who is reluctant to say so. A total of 36% of respondents said an acquaintance of theirs has kept quiet about his or her support for the president. An additional 25% were not sure if they know someone in that category. And 39% meanwhile said they had no friends or family who secretly support Trump. We'll see how things play out. I'll come back and maybe we'll talk about some of this, but I want to show you this story. This is why you clicked the video, right? A liberal for Trump. Interesting. Carrie Smith says, I'm voting for Trump because the Democratic Party is no longer liberal. If the vote were held today, as most of you know, I'd probably vote for Trump. I don't know about the rest of the Republicans. And this has mostly to do with the insane intersectionalism. You've got people like Robin DiAngelo, an overt racist, being like leading the charge for these people. It's freaky. They're racist people. And you've got the riots. They're lying about this. Trump has done enough. You combine with the Democrats embracing the riots, they're ridiculous positions. They're fracturing. And I'm like, they're not liberal. They're not. For me, it's a lot to do with the Middle East. I mean, Trump just helped coordinate a massive, epic, historic Middle Eastern peace deal. I give him credit for these things, man. So I think there's reasons to say he's bad. He's ill-prepared. He's unprofessional. But he's not that bad. You know what I mean? The way they talk about him. Well, I want to show you what this woman has to say. She says, hello, my name is Carrie, and I'm a liberal who is voting for Donald Trump. A little background. I used to be a social justice warrior. For 20 years, I was a true believer who preached this evil ideology, fully convinced that it was the way to end racism and sexism. It took me 2 decades to realize it is racism. It is sexism. Bravo. Before the 2016 election, I went down a rabbit hole of videos of Trump supporters being assaulted by people who were supposed to be on my side, who were supposed to be liberals and progressives. I was left in tears, utterly shocked and repulsed because the legacy media had not told me this was happening. Matter of fact, they had sold me and I had bought without sufficient evidence the opposite narrative. She says, I still cried the night Trump won because I still believed the things I was told to believe about him without forming my own opinion. Social justice warriors do that a lot, but it became really important for me to figure out why he won because I wanted to prevent it from happening again in 2020. So I started leaving my carefully cultivated echo chamber. I started seeking out other points of view and actually listening to why people voted for him. Instead of projecting and telling them what the media had told me were the reasons, I started meeting Trump voters, most of whom did not fit the stereotype I had been sold. And in the past 4 years, I watched as my old ideology, social justice Marxism, went mainstream. In the past few months, in particular, it has become culturally dominant to the point where it is being spoken by all of our major corporations, by academia, by entertainment, by big social, by the legacy media, and by the Democratic Party, my old party. Social justice Marxism teaches us that the way to end racism and sexism is by becoming racists and sexists. It tells us we must treat people differently on the basis of race and sex. It teaches us it's impossible to be racist towards one particular race or one particular sex. Gee, I wonder what could possibly go wrong with indoctrinating children to believe this. Social justice Marxists lie. Look at their behavior and see if it matches up even with their redefined words. It doesn't. They tell us that we must shut up and listen to black voices, listen to women, listen to gay people and trans people. Oh, but not that black person, not that woman, not that gay person or that trans person. And there are many. You've got Candace Owens. You've got, for that woman, we can once again say you've got Candace Owens. But sure, you've got Kanye West, Candace Owens, the Hodge twins. You've got Brandon Strzok. You've got Blair White. Those are the people who are supposed to be these marginalized people, but their opinions are marginalized. Their point of view, what matters to them, what they think is important, what protects them. You will not find that with the Democratic Party. And it cracks the narrative of what they're saying. But let's keep reading what Carrie is saying. She says, or that one, or that one, or that one. What they really mean is that we must speak their ideology and only their ideology or else remain quiet. They are the first to use racist and sexist and homophobic slurs against anyone brave enough to stand up to their backward beliefs because they know it hurts. They know it hurts you. I watched it. I watched the Proud Boys in Portland, and the far leftists in Antifa were screaming hardcore racial slurs at a right-wing black man. And they know that they can do that to hurt these people. And you know what I saw? It was actually a white Proud Boy who gave the guy a hug and said, ignore them. Don't let them hurt you. That's not who you are. We're in this together. And I shook my head, man. I'm like, look at these two guys. This guy was ready to storm across the street and knock out some of these racists, Antifa. And it was actually one of the Proud Boys who stopped him and said, don't listen to him. Don't let the racists get to you. And I shake my head because I'm like, it's just, how absurd is this? The anti-racists, they fly that flag, but they are legit racists. They're legit. They say it themselves. They say they are. And Carrie is saying it right now. She calls it a cancerous ideology being forced in a cult-like indoctrination seminar in workplaces, in our churches, in our hobby groups. She says, I was indoctrinated into it in college 20 years ago, but it is now being forced on children in public schools as early as kindergarten. Heck, it's even being pushed on babies. Babies, I kid you not. With books like Anti-Racist Baby becoming trendy in this illiberal cultural revolution. The Democrats support all of this. They are no longer a party of liberalism, but a party of social justice, Marxism, and authoritarianism. Yep. She says, well, I am a liberal, and I will not allow these Marxist totalitarians to redefine the word. The way they try to redefine so many. There is nothing liberal about supporting censorship by big social or the government. Thank you. It was very easy for me to be like, you know, I've always been kind of a lefty liberal, meaning if corporations get out of line and start oppressing the commons, we regulate them. And then all of a sudden the Democrats were like, no, we're not in favor of that. Private corporations are okay. And I said, what? when have we ever been in favor of that? We've always wanted to reel in the corporations. Oh, it doesn't matter because they're giving you power. That's the lie. And so my position's never changed. I'm probably in feeling something similar to we see from many people. The left left me. Or what was the left? Maybe it was always the left. She says, there is nothing liberal about supporting violence by speaking lies that conflate speech with violence in order to justify violence as a response to speech. Silence is not violence. Words are not violence. There is nothing liberal about indoctrinating generations of children into racism and sexism and saying it's okay because you call it anti-racism and feminism. Clever, but you're lying. There is nothing progressive about pushing escalating numbers of children to medically transition or to mock and demean them if they later detransition. There is nothing progressive about wishing death on people who disagree with you and celebrating when a terrorist shoots up a Republican baseball game. About grave dancing when cops, both black and white, and gunned down at a Black Lives Matter rally. She says, I am a liberal who is voting for Trump because I am deeply worried about the state of our country, about the erosion of cultural values like free speech, equality, the non-aggression principle, reason, logic, objectivity, and individualism. I am a liberal who is voting for Donald Trump because I oppose racism and sexism. And I see that my old party, the Democratic Party, has been entirely eaten up with racist and sexist beliefs, a mind virus that threatens to make monsters of men and to end civilization as we know it. I agree. She says, I am a liberal who is voting for Trump because despite the names I will be called and the friends I have lost and will lose, I believe he is the person running who has demonstrated the most commitment to ending war. That I agree with. The most commitment to individualism and equality. The most commitment to free speech. In short, I am a liberal who is voting for Trump because I think he is the most liberal of the candidates I can choose from. And let me say a word about others like me who are part of Walk Away and those I've been blessed to get to know. Nobody willingly subjects themselves to social ostracism, to name calling and insults, to risk of losing their job, to risk of losing their family's safety without good reason. And that reason is the pursuit of truth. She goes on to talk a bit more, about some other people. I try to keep these segments short, but I'll just say, man, I think she hits the nail on the head. Absolutely. That so many people know they're risking everything and they're going to get attacked and they won't admit it. I've had friends say nasty things to me, but I'm like, listen, have you paid attention to any of my content? You haven't. And if you did, you'd probably agree with me on these issues. Let me tell you, I do not like Donald Trump as a president. When he showed up to that interview with Axios on HBO, when he showed up to Chris Wallace, he is ill prepared. Even with Kayleigh McEnany's help. I didn't realize she was there with him. I think she's fantastic. I think she's very smart and she takes, she takes on the media head. She's very, she's prepared. Trump, less so. But I believe Trump wants to do certain things. And there are certain things I'm not a big fan of or don't care about. But there are certain important things like ending war, defending free speech, stopping violent crime. I support him in these endeavors. I think ultimately right now, Joe Biden and Kamala Harris will do whatever they have to get elected. They'll pander to extremists, this woke, insane cult. Donald Trump won't. Trump will say whatever he wants to say. And he said Black Lives Matter is Marxist. And if I'm wrong, well, I guess I'll lose an election. And I was impressed by that. At least, I said about Bernie Sanders. And the reason why I wanted to support him was because although I disagreed with him, he's been consistent. And at the very least, I know he's being genuine. I can say the same thing about Donald Trump. I don't agree with him. And I think Bernie was more professional, but Bernie sold us all out. He flipped it immediately. Donald Trump's got a lot of problems. But right now, following the riots and the economic crisis, I'm angry. I'm angry at the Democrats for abandoning me. And now the only choice I have is Trump. And I disagree with him on a lot of issues. But at the very least, he provides a bare minimum of what we need in this country to literally survive. Free speech, liberalism, whatever you want to call it. He's the most liberal candidate. If we're going to survive and make it through this, it's not with Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. And that to me is scary because I don't want to be backed into a corner, but that's how I feel. I know that people like Kerry and Brandon Strzok have come to more support Trump. I'm not going to put words in her mouth, and other people have straight up said they like the guy. I think he's entertaining and funny, but I would not pick him to be the president. I think the president needs something more. But I will take what I can get because the alternative is oblivion. And that's unfortunate. It really is. And I'm not happy about it. I can laugh at Trump's jokes. I don't have Trump derangement syndrome. I think the guy's funny. I get it. I'll take what I can get. I got one more segment coming up in a few minutes, and I will see you all shortly.